The sheriff is the highest ranking constitutional law officer in the county. And I've been very concerned when I'm watching the Florida Sheriff's Association take a position against the Second Amendment. Did you know that the Florida Sheriff's Association wants to disarm concealed carry license holders during times of emergency or evacuation? And I want to visit with our sheriff, Frank McKeithen, tonight and talk with him about his law enforcement philosophy and the Constitution. Pull up a chair and join us. We've learned a lot this year about the office of sheriff and how important it is. We just saw it again demonstrated in Nevada, even in the cattle rancher standoff. And I am glad to be with my sheriff right now in Bay County, Frank McKeithen. Sheriff, thanks for being with us.
Burnie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I've got all these fancy new things. Sheriff, do you notice this ear thing? Look at
Burnie,
this. We're getting professional now.
Burnie, you're scaring me though, because you know that looks just like a federal agent. You know, they talk in their arm and they have these things in their ears. So.
I just wanted to be on equal footing with you, Sheriff.
Okay.
That's all.
All right.
Let's talk a little bit about the role of sheriff. How do you view the role of sheriff? You hear me talking a lot about you're the most powerful man in Bay County. That must sound kind of funny to you, but it's true.
Well, it sounds pretty good until I get home and explain that to my wife, and that is absolutely not true at my house. So, but you know, I do hear that, and it's very interesting for me to hear that, because I try to read and know what I can and can't do, and I think I've developed what I would call that. I don't know if I'm more powerful than anyone else, but I believe I have more responsibilities than anyone else, because I'm elected by the citizens.
And that's the thing, and that's what's so important about the role of sheriff is you are accountable to the people. We elect you. And tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about your origins, how you got into law enforcement, how you became a sheriff, how you dealt with state statutes, which are a whole lot more voluminous than the Constitution. I want to talk with you about the Florida Sheriff's Association and their position on the Second Amendment. And I was awfully surprised and disappointed to find out that they didn't want concealed carry license holders armed in the event of an emergency or an evacuation. So I want to get Sheriff Frank McKeithen's thoughts on all of this in just a moment. The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in St. Andrews Bay. Steak, seafood, and sunsets right on the water. Updates on Facebook at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Forest Park Animal Hospital. So much more than just a vet for your pet. Dr. Stephen Favillaro is your dog's best friend when you need him. On Facebook at Forest Park Animal Hospital, PA. Gulf Imaging. Have your doctor refer you to the #1 diagnostic facility in Bay County for MRIs, CAT scans, and digital mammography. Gulf Imaging Open MRI.
Find out what's shaking at Lowe's House of Bourbon at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Lowe's House of Bourbon, located above the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in historic St. Andrews.
Hi, I'm Darrell Day.
And I'm Burnie Thompson.
You know, we both proudly served our nation in uniform.
And we still serve today on the radio, expanding freedom and protecting the family budget.
And using the airwaves to educate, enlighten, and entertain, and sometimes irritate.
So join us every day and link arms, and let's do our part to restore this republic.
Join me each morning, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
And join me from 11 to 2 on Talk Radio 101.
Gerard Verga fights for justice every day. As a family man who grew up in our community, Mr. Verga wants to bring those values back to our justice system. Vote Verga on August 26th. Political ad paid for and approved by Gerard Verga for judge.
We spent a lot of time this year defending the office of sheriff, and I learned a lot about the office of sheriff this year with the new sheriff in Liberty County. And we learned that the sheriff has a whole lot of authority, and he is the highest ranking constitutional constable in a county. And what I like about sheriffs is that they're accountable to the people who elect them. And I'm with mine right now, Frank McKeithen, Bay County Sheriff. Sheriff, I want to find out about how you got into law enforcement and how you evolved to sheriff.
Well, getting into law enforcement, was something that I had dreamed about my entire life. My great-grandfather was actually a sheriff in Washington County up in Chipley in the early 1900s. I always thought about it, but I was always told that I wasn't going to amount to much. I wasn't going to be anything, and kind of this is what people expect when you come from a small town sometimes and you have nothing. I became a carpenter and was working, and one day I actually was able to have some interaction with a law enforcement officer, and from that day forward I thought, that's what I want to be. I got into law enforcement. I was the youngest deputy they ever hired at the Bay County Sheriff's Office, and from that day forward I have tried to move and excel in what I do.
I think it is so important in a free society for the people to respect law enforcement, and likewise for law enforcement to respect the people. And I want to ask, you and I have known each other for about 8 years now, and we've butted heads on a few issues on the radio, and I want to know about how you've evolved in your law enforcement philosophy over that period of time.
Well, the law enforcement part, the laws are so complex, and there's so many of them that I've spent my entire career pretty much concentrating on what laws are and what laws aren't. And by doing that, there are some things probably that I should have done and better or should have done more of, but one of them was actually studying and the Constitution, because the laws should apply with the Constitution. There should be a parallel there somewhere.
Right.
And
at least they shouldn't contradict each other. Right?
Sure. And I always thought, well, the law shouldn't, I just assumed that the laws are like that, because I'm not going to do anything, first of all, that I think is wrong. And I thought the laws were there for the right reasons. You came to town, you started talking about the Constitution and things of that nature, and things would happen in Bay County and that I was involved in, and you would talk about that, sometimes not so favorable and sometimes favorable, but you were not rude or mean about it. You was a gentleman always about it, and I do accept things like that. People can tell me I'm wrong, but just please do it in the right way.
Right.
And I began to listen to you, even though I didn't want to acknowledge that you were right. At least I listened. And I began to read, and I began to study, and I began to listen to you more, and I began to listen to things that people said that followed you. And I've discovered some people I've never seen in my life, but I've discovered some people out there that call in, are very educated and very knowledgeable of the Constitution in ways that I'm not. And I believe by doing that it made me a better person. It made me think more about the entire role of my job. Instead of just putting someone in jail, there were other parts of it, and it has evolved me to where I am. I'm still not the most professional constitutionalist in town, but in my limited study, I've certainly learned a lot more than I did.
You told me one time that in the past 3 years, you've probably read more than you have in your whole life.
I have.
And it's the study of this. And you gave a speech one time, Sheriff, when it was for Nick Finch. It was for Sheriff Nick Finch when we had looked into that. And you went up on stage and you put 5, I believe it was, books. Encyclopedia Britannica-sized books And you said these are the state statutes, 10,000 pages of what you have the power to do. And then you took a pocket constitution and you put it right on top of it. And you said that when they collide, you're now thinking a second time about the Constitution. And I got to tell you, that is why a lot of us vote for you, because you're willing to think about things a second time and study it. And I sure appreciate that, Sheriff.
Well, I think that's what we should do. I'm elected by the people. Whether I agree, disagree, or don't agree, I should listen. And there's a lot of things the public can teach me about things that have nothing to do with law enforcement, yet it has a lot to do with my responsibilities.
Let's consider a few of the things maybe you might have done before. Checkpoints. Have you thought differently about checkpoints from when you first started law enforcement?
I have. We've been involved in checkpoints, and DUI roadblocks is what we called them, and they evolved to this and evolved to something else, and I don't even know what they call them anymore. And I think there's a time and a place to possibly even do this, but I don't think it should be random. I think there should be reasons for us being anywhere, and as part of the drive that you guys initiated, it did make me think, and did make me wonder, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
I don't always agree with maybe the possibility of having confrontations about things like that, because the side of the road is not the place to have it.
Right.
If you don't agree with what I'm doing and you think it's unconstitutional, I really believe that there's places that we can fix that at. So just adding that, I don't like the confrontations about it, but just I think it needed to be addressed.
Well, it's a big deal because the Fourth Amendment guarantees us the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures without probable cause and a warrant. And probable cause attaches to an individual. In other words, there's suspicion that this individual is doing something wrong. Not because some people do something wrong, everybody's a suspect. That's what the Fourth Amendment's about. And I like to ask this question. If seizing us, if stopping us for doing nothing wrong is reasonable, what's left? What's unreasonable? And back in a moment with Sheriff Frank McKeithen talking about his philosophy on law enforcement and the Constitution. Stay with us. The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in St. Andrews Bay. Steak, seafood, and sunsets right on the water. Updates on Facebook at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Forest Park Animal Hospital. So much more than just a vet for your pet. Dr. Stephen Favillaro is your dog's best friend when you need him. On Facebook at Forest Park Animal Hospital, PA. Gulf Imaging. Have your doctor refer you to the #1 diagnostic facility in Bay County for MRIs, CAT scans, and digital mammography. Gulf Imaging Open MRI.
Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm Katie. At Gears, we're proud to offer you a complete transmission service starting at $49.95.
We also offer free shuttle service in our Gears limo.
Lifetime warranties?
Transmission services for $49.95.
Come let my daddy fix your car.
Gerard Verga wants to bring decency, fairness, and justice back to our courts. On August 26th, vote Verga for judge. Political ad paid for and approved by Gerard Verga for judge.
Find out what's shaking at Lowe's House of Bourbon at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Lowe's House of Bourbon, located above the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in historic St. Andrews.
Let's expand freedom and protect the family budget. You and me, right here every week. And if you like what we're doing, drop me a line at myfreedomradio.com. That's where you can email me and let me know your thoughts. On The Burnie Thompson Show, a Gears production. Back with Sheriff Frank McKeithen, Bay County Sheriff, talking about his law enforcement philosophy and the Constitution. Sheriff, I want to ask you, what have been the biggest challenges you faced as a sheriff, and how has that influenced your law enforcement philosophy?
Well, I think, every day I wake up, there's a challenge about what's going on in our world. I never know what to expect from day to day. But I think one of the biggest things that's happened in my career was the boot camp incident, to where it's almost one day you're a hero and the next day you're a zero.
That's a big deal.
And the entire world changes, and I truly believe because of politics sometimes, because of what people are trying to do and how they're trying to do it. I was faced with the toughest time I've ever had in my life.
Right when you started, right?
It was a year after I started, but I mean, it got to the point where I would walk down the hallways and encourage the guys to keep their heads up, and it's going to be okay, we're going to be all right. I'd go in the bathroom and throw up because it really bothered me that people were turning, that you couldn't say anything, you couldn't make a comment without someone taking it out of text and changing the entire
I mean, it was so racially
of
charged.
What you said. It was tough.
You know, Sheriff, I got here at that time, and you all asked me to do my research, and I saw the video. You know, and when you see the video, you have preconceived notions, and I promised you I would do the research. And I brought the medical examiner on every day, and I interviewed just about every medical examiner outside of Quincy I could find, and we found the truth. That young man suffocated from the inside out at a cellular level, and that's how it played out in court. And the challenges you faced came from the top down, didn't they?
They did. I received letters from the governor, advising me what I needed to do and what I should do, and certainly, I respect the office of governor, and I'm not above that, but what I was being suggested was not right, and so I did not do it, and I respectfully replied with letters saying that I was not going to do it. And so
you felt that put you, I know what you're talking about, Sheriff, because you've shared that with me, and you felt like that might have put your job on the line, but you were willing, weren't you, to risk your position if the governor didn't like it, because you weren't going to do that.
I wasn't going to do it then. I'm not going to do it now. I'm not going to compromise everything that I've worked for my entire life because of political reasons. I'm not going to do it.
We only have one name in this world. And,
you're right.
Yep.
And speaking of that, and we're going to talk about the Constitution at some point, but in reading and researching and doing, it is so often I see things in there about morals and character that our Constitution was actually based on that. And actually there's a part that says when we get to the point that our Constitution was made for morals. It was made for people with morals. And when our country gets to the point we have no more morals, it's not any good for our country anymore.
John Adams said that. He said, liberty, and Chris Anhall talks about this a lot, that liberty is freedom plus morals. It's not just freedom with abandon.
And look what we're evolving to now. I mean, it's scary. It worries me what's going on in this world. It really does.
It worries me too. Sheriff, you talked about as a leader going around and telling everybody, hey, keep your head up, and then you go in the bathroom. They can't see you at your most vulnerable moment. Tell me how being a leader, being a sheriff, has it changed you deeply as a man?
The events, or just my entire career?
Just you being the sheriff, you being the elected constable, the leader of all of your guys and ladies who work for you.
I can say without a shadow of a doubt, it has changed me as a person. It has changed me to the point to where I finally understand some of the times I walked out of the sheriff's office that I was working for and mumbled under my breath, that I now know why some of the things he did or said he did. But it also, I believe, made me a better person. Because I've always looked at my leader as someone that was they encouraged me. They didn't do things that everybody else did. They led a life that was admirable. And it's a lot of sacrifices to do that, but things that I do or don't do in my life, I do it because of the position I'm in and because my people expect the best out of me.
You don't have the luxury to just do what feels good.
No, I do not.
Do you have is there somebody who influenced you, a mentor, somebody who really made a big difference in your life?
There is. It was a gentleman named Joe Coram, and Joe has passed away now, but Joe was an investigator with the Bay County Sheriff's Office. And at one point in my life, if Joe had told me to go up the clock tower and jump off and I would be okay, I probably would have done it. And at that time in my life, I needed something like that. And that is one of the reasons that, because of the impact Joe made on me, because of his morals and his ethics, it showed me that I believe a person with morals and ethics and character is going to be a better leader, and your people are going to follow you more. I also get out with my people. I don't ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And if I can be the first one through the door, I am. Mm-hmm. And I just think that creates an environment to where if I do not think what they're doing is right, such as some of the unconstitutional things that sometimes we do, I can actually challenge those because they believe in me and they trust me, and that's important.
So you're the kind of leader who says, let's go, not go.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Do you have your deputies study the Constitution or anything?
Well, we used to did not, but each one of them have been given the pocket Constitution. When I hire a new hire, that's one of the things that they're given is one of the pocket Constitutions and told to study the Constitution. And we do talk about it more than we've ever talked about it.
And I think that's one of the great developments in America today. And when we get back with Sheriff Frank McKeithen, I want to ask him a little bit about the Second Amendment, because I know that he is one of the big supporters of the Second Amendment with all of America's sheriffs, and there's some pretty good ones. Back with Sheriff Frank McKeithen in just a minute. The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in St. Andrews Bay. Steak, seafood, and sunsets right on the water. Updates on Facebook at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Forest Park Animal Hospital. So much more than just a vet for your pet. Dr. Stephen Favillaro is your dog's best friend when you need him. On Facebook at Forest Park Animal Hospital, PA. Gulf Imaging. Have your doctor refer you to the #1 diagnostic facility in Bay County for MRIs, CAT scans, and digital mammography. Gulf Imaging Open MRI.
Find out what's shaking at Lowe's House of Bourbon at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Lowe's House of Bourbon, located above the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in historic St. Andrews.
Gerard Verga wants to bring decency, fairness, and justice back to our courts. On August 26th, vote Verga for Judge. Political ad paid for and approved by Gerard Verga for Judge.
If you need your car worked on, take it where I get my car worked on. Gears Transmissions. Whether it's your engine, your brakes, or a $49 transmission special, Gears Transmissions will take care of you. And you know you're never going to get upsold. You're never going to get swindled. And you'll get to meet my friend Jay, my good friend Jay, who, by the way, if you like what we're doing here on the Whiskey Rebellion, this is part of Gears Productions. Gears Transmissions you can find online at gearstransmissions.com or in Panama City near the mall, just about a mile up 231 toward Interstate 10. On your left, it's right by the Dollar General. Back with Sheriff Frank McKeithen. And Sheriff, I want to ask you a little bit about the Second Amendment. I know you are a big supporter of the Second Amendment, and I have a friend who likes to say that it's not only our responsibility as good citizens, but our duty to be able to protect our families. And oftentimes that's with the best means necessary, and we may choose a firearm to do that. I know that you want us to be well trained, but I have a friend who likes to say when seconds count, Police are minutes away, so you have to be able to take care of yourself. Tell me a little bit about the importance of the Second Amendment.
Well, I think it's very important that you understand it to start with. Sometimes it's very hard, even though it's got less than 25 words in it. When you read it, it gets confusing, and I understand very clearly the part about the right to bear arms, and I certainly believe that, and I would never ever infringe on someone's rights who are not violating the law, who are doing the right thing. I think people should defend themselves. You know, it gets real complicated when you start talking about what are arms. You know, sometimes arms could be what that person is proficient in. Back in when the Constitution, you know, was written, you know, there were several kind of arms. But going back to that, I truly believe that everyone has a right to protect themselves with whatever means they think is necessary, whether it be a firearm or whatever. The militia part to provide, to make sure we have a free state, a well-regulated militia. I look at that, I study that. I hear people say that the sheriff can call out the militia. I read things about what the militia really means. There's so much confusion. There's so much different
militias and muskets. You know, I'll offer this to you, Sheriff. A well-regulated militia, militia, common, being necessary to a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Those opening two clauses, a lot of people think are confusing, but in my opinion, they don't mitigate or limit the right of the people to keep and bear arms. It explains it. Those are explanatory clauses. We didn't have an army, and you know, the government had muskets and flintlock rifles, and I think we agree on that. We're running short on time. Sheriff Frank McKeithen, we'll have to do it again. Thank you so much, and I salute you, Sheriff, for putting up with me for all these years, and at least thinking about it a second time. I respect you as much as I do any man I know.
Well, I thank you, and what you say and do in your program and what everyone else says, I do listen to, and I take that at heart.
Sheriff Frank McKeithen, appreciate it very much. Send your comments to the email below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll respond to them next week. I'm Burnie Thompson. Thanks for watching. The Burnie Thompson Show Whiskey Rebellion is brought to you by the Shrimp Boat Restaurant in St. Andrews Bay. Steak, seafood, and sunsets right on the water. Updates on Facebook at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. Forest Park Animal Hospital. So much more than just a vet for your pet. Dr. Stephen Favillaro is your dog's best friend when you need him. On Facebook at Forest Park Animal Hospital, PA. Gulf Imaging. Have your doctor refer you to the #1 diagnostic facility in Bay County for MRIs, CAT scans, and digital mammography. Gulf Imaging Open MRI.